Welcome to the Thrive in Fashion podcast, where we explore the role of the fashion buyer, the knowledge and skill sets required for success, and the impact of the role in your retail business. In each episode, you will learn about industry best practice and how the buyer's role is evolving in this ever-changing, fast-paced industry. And now, here is your host, a fashion industry expert with over 20 years of experience, Elisabeth Mac Hale.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Thrive in Fashion podcast. I'm your host, Elisabeth Mac Hale. This episode is about retail math calculations. Retail math is essential for all fashion buyers, both development product buying and those working with branded products, and the markup and profit margin requirements for each. At the end of last month, I held a 3-day workshop focused on fashion buying and how to become a fashion buyer. The workshop series was to announce the opening of the Members Club for enrolment. This is a monthly subscription club for fashion buyers, which only opens for enrolment a few times a year and focuses on all things related to fashion buying. There is a new masterclass launch every month, a live Q&A with me, and of course, a growing community of fashion buyers. During one of the Q&A sessions of the workshop, I received a question about markup and what is a good markup multiplier for a branded buyer to apply. This buyer said that they generally apply a markup multiplier of about 2.3 from the wholesale price, but had noticed that some brands were coming in at much lower multipliers, starting at about 1.4. Naturally, she was concerned about maintaining a healthy profit margin overall. This is a great question, and I want to break it down in this episode. What is a good markup, how it affects your profit margins, and what to do when brands don't fully align with typical benchmarks. So let's start with the basics. What is a markup and why does it matter? For those of you who are new to buying, what do we mean by markup? Well, simply put, the markup is the difference between the cost of the product and the price that you sell it for. It's usually expressed as a multiplier. So if you're marking up a product by 2.3, that means that you're selling it for 2.3 times the cost price. For example, if you purchased a product for $100 and you retail it for $230, that means that you've multiplied it by 2.3. Now, why is this important? Well, the markup is a key driver of your profit margin. In retail, we typically aim for both strong turnover and healthy margins to ensure profitability. However, profit margins aren't just about putting a large markup on everything. You have to strike a balance between what's competitive in the market and what ensures that you're running a viable business. So the question was whether a good markup in fashion buying starts at 2.3. Now, this number can vary depending on the sector of the market that you're working in. And for many branded fashion buyers, 2.3 is considered a healthy baseline. And it is commonly used as it gives enough margin to cover costs, overheads, and still make a profit after markdowns and other adjustments. However, it is essential to note that markup can differ significantly across different segments, depending on the business model and pricing strategies. For a luxury or designer brand, the markup may be lower because of the exclusivity of the product, the perceived value, and the brand's position in the market. The 2.3 multiplier gives you a good cushion, but it is by no means set in stone. Different types of retailers will apply different markups based on their cost structures, the level of competition, and the customer's willingness to pay. That is probably one of the most important things for you to understand. What is your cost structure? If you're running a retail business and you're buying a variety of different brands, to apply a flat markup on every single one without understanding what profit you actually need to make to cover all of your expenses and your overheads, then a 2.3 may not be suitable for your business. But let me continue and I'll explain a little bit more. The real concern, as this buyer expressed, was what do you do when a brand comes in at a much lower multiplier like 1.4, because that is quite a significant drop from 2.3. At 1.4, if you're purchasing a product for $100, you're selling it for $140. That's not leaving a lot of room for profit after you account for costs like rent, staffing, marketing, and other overheads. And don't forget markdowns, because as buyers, while we might wish to sell everything, we know that not everything sells out at full price. So why are some brands coming in much lower? In many cases, it's about brand positioning and perceived value. Designer brands, particularly those with high fashion status, know that they have a premium that can justify a lower markup while still commanding a higher price. But for you as a buyer, that doesn't necessarily mean that you walk away with a healthy margin. When you're facing a situation where the multiplier is well below where you'd like it to be, there are a few strategies that you can consider. Firstly, negotiate terms. It's always worth negotiating. You might not always be able to get a lower wholesale price, but sometimes you can work out other terms that can help, such as extended payment windows or even marketing support that can help push the product and reduce the risk of heavy markdowns. Secondly, you could curate your assortment carefully. This is probably the most important thing that you can do. With some brands coming in at lower markups, you need to be very strategic about how you plan and curate your range assortment. Focus on hero pieces that you know have the potential to be high turnover items. These may not offer the best margin, but they can drive footfall or online traffic, which can benefit your overall assortment. Look for margin drivers where you have products with a lower markup and balance that with the higher margin items elsewhere in your range. Fast-moving and trend-driven products can take a higher multiplier, so things like accessories, maybe some basic items or private label items can help support the overall profitability of your department. So in this respect, it's no different from what a product development buyer would be doing. Everyone needs to plan the range in advance, and you need to plan it right down to the numbers level and understand what sort of profit margin you can afford across your business or across your whole range, and then understand where you can apply a higher multiplier or a higher margin versus a lower one on other products. On the whole, you need to achieve a certain margin to deliver profit for your business. Next, consider the lifetime value of your customer. Sometimes lower margins on certain brands can be a strategic decision. And again, this is something that you can plan in advance. If you have a brand that has a really strong pull to bring in new customers and to retain your existing customers, the lower margin might be worth it. And lastly, increase value through services or bundles. This is another way to compensate for a lower margin by increasing the perceived value of the purchase. So this could be like offering exclusive shopping experience or bundling products together to drive up the ATV, which is the average transaction value of the sale. As buyers, we always need to walk a fine line between profitability and maintaining brand mix that resonates with our customers. In the case of designer brands with lower markups, you're often selling the prestige and the lifestyle associated with the brand. It's more about maintaining that aspirational element in your store than about hitting a specific target margin on each product. The important thing is to look at the bigger picture. So what are these brands doing for your overall customer base? Are they driving new customer acquisition? Are there people coming specifically because you have this brand? Are they contributing to a high-end luxury feel in your store? Is the perception of your store is that it is something more unique and high-end? Are they helping to elevate your brand positioning? Because these are all intangible benefits that may justify taking a hit on the markup for those specific brands. But, and this is a big but, you cannot sacrifice profitability altogether you still need to maintain and make sure that you achieve your overall margin when considering your entire range assortment. And that's why it's so crucial to balance your lower margin designer items with higher margin products in other categories. And this is something that I address in the Thrive in Fashion buying course, where we talk about price point hierarchy and product structure and understanding how to put a well-balanced assortment and range together. So to answer the original question, while a 2.3 multiplier is a good benchmark, especially for branded products, it's not a hard and fast rule. I would be very cautious about applying a multiplier flatly across my products. It's really important to understand the numbers and the profit underneath what that multiplier achieves. Designer brands may come in lower, but as long as you approach your buying strategy with a balanced perspective, leveraging the high margin products and carefully curating your assortment, you can still maintain a healthy profit margin. At the end of the day, fashion buying is all about balancing. You've got to keep your eye on the numbers and think about your brand positioning, your customer expectations, but most importantly, the overall profitability of your range. That's it for this week. I hope this deep dive into markup and profit margins has given you some actionable insights. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to hear more about, don't hesitate to reach out, leave a message in the comments, or you can contact us at hello@thriveinfashion.com. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show. For more of Elisabeth's industry tips and to learn more about how you can develop your buying skills, visit thriveinfashion.com. There you can find show notes for this episode and every episode. Also, register for the Thrive in Fashion program and sign up for weekly news delivered straight to your inbox. Until next time.